The Tampa Bay Lightning won their second straight Stanley Cup title on Wednesday night, defeating the Montreal Canadiens 1-0 to give a region becoming known as Tampa Bay its third professional sports title in less than a year. News Now's Regina Gonzalez talks with NHL analyst and former Lightning player Kevin Weeks about the win, the supportive reaction on social media, and just how big that Stanley Cup actually is. Here's that conversation.
It's so hard to win the Stanley Cup, and then you do it 2 years in a row. I mean, you deserve to go down in history.
Guys, the Stanley Cup is not going anywhere. The Tampa Bay Lightning will hold on to that legendary NHL trophy for another year after winning their second title in a row on their own ice Wednesday evening. So to talk more about it with me is a very special guest that is joining me right now on Live Now from Fox. His name is Kevin Weeks. He is an NHL analyst with the NHL Network and a former Tampa Bay Lightning player himself. Mr. Weeks, how are you? Thank you so much for being with us here.
I'm great. Thank you so much. Top of the morning to you and all the viewers that are tuned in. And thanks so much for having me. I'm great.
Oh, absolutely. Exciting news out of Tampa. We're here in Orlando, just down the road, just down I-4. So you were analyzing this game when it happened. So tell us about those top moments. Tell us about what you saw and you want to talk about.
I think the biggest thing for the Lightning is the fact that they become such a complete team. As much as they're a juggernaut offensively, they can win games in different ways. And in a game like last night, the series clincher, the Stanley Cup final clinching game, they won only by one goal, and they're very comfortable in doing that. So they can play it any way you want it. If it's an up-tempo offensive game, they can put up 3, 4, 5, 6 goals if they need to. When the games become physical, as last night was again, they can respond and play through that. And then, of course, to win a tight game, they were able to do it. What's interesting, in the last 2 seasons, they were 13-0 prior to last night, 13-0 when coming off of a loss. And in 5 consecutive rounds in the playoffs, Andre Vasilevsky, the big cat, their goalie between the pipes, has won by a shutout, recorded a shutout, 120 shots faced, 120 consecutive saves in series clinching games. So that, for me, is exactly why they won the Stanley Cup and they were able to clinch it last night. And I really think this young goalie, Andre Vasilevsky of the Lightning, is on his trajectory, potentially health willing, to be a top 5 goalie of all time in the history of our game.
Yeah. And Kevin, I'm really glad you mentioned that because we wake up for this morning shift at about 3:30. So I stayed up late to watch the game, but I kind of noticed in the beginning that there were some, they had way more, score attempts than Canada. But at the same time, I felt like there were some misplays, some bouncing pucks. Do you feel that it showed a little bit that there was this pressure to win on their home ice?
Yeah, I think they realized that they put that pressure on themselves internally. And speaking of people in their group of the Lightning, they said definitively, listen, we want to win this at home in front of our family and friends and our fans. We want to win this in Florida, in the Sunshine State. We don't want this going back up to Montreal. We don't want to push fate. So naturally, there was a little bit of tension. And of course, they were a little tentative. I'm going to liken this to what I saw yesterday afternoon before going to the studio in the Euro 2020 with Denmark playing at England. It was the exact same thing in soccer. You're playing at Wembley Stadium, your team England, you're at home, on home soil, British soil, and that nervous anticipation was there for the players, but it was also through the stadium. I felt the same kind of vibes at Amalie Arena in terms of watching that game for both the Lightning and their fans. Look, I spoke to Patrick Kane of the Chicago Blackhawks, who's going to go down as the best American-born player ever. And I talked to him about playing against the Lightning in 2015, actually, when Chicago had the chance to beat the Lightning in that Stanley Cup final in Chicago. And he told me yesterday, he said, Weeksy, there's no way we were losing that game in front of our family and friends. We knew that going in. And that's similar to the way in which the Lightning felt yesterday. So, yeah, there was a little bit of jitters and a little bit of nerves, but that team is amazing. They're an amazing franchise. And I want to get this in for a lot of the viewers. They have amazing ownership in Mr. Vinik. And what I love about him is his ownership is very inclusive. It's very wide spectrum in terms of inclusivity. You have females that work for the organization. You have people all across the color spectrum, LGBTQ, veterans, especially with MacDill Air Force Base being there in Tampa. So, and quite frankly, they have a lot of different people of color on the team and in the organization as well. So I give them a lot of credit, and it starts with the ownership group of Mr. Vinik.
Yeah, and Mr. Weeks, I'm actually so glad you touched on all of those points because this win was night and day compared to last year's win when they were alone in that bubble in Edmonton. Can you talk about that compared to, the energy that was felt and seen outside of Amalie compared to how they were kind of forced to celebrate last year?
Yeah, exactly. That was a really, I mean, for the whole world, of course, it was a trying 2 years. Very, very challenging for a lot of different people. And, some of us lost family members as a result. And I have to say, what was really challenging as well is isolation for so many. I mean, everybody's life routines were very disrupted. You had to reimagine life on the fly. You had to be creative. And for Tampa and all of our players and staff, really, the fact that our league last year was able to run 2 bubbles simultaneously, one in the east in my hometown of Toronto and the other one out west in Edmonton, Alberta, and then coming down to the final being out in Edmonton. And Tampa, obviously, their team is from down in Florida. It's an amazing story. And doing that by way of being isolated under heavy protocols, very restrictive protocols, that was amazing in and of itself. And then the fact that they got to celebrate and they pushed Tom Brady. They're like, TB12, you came down here now. You're playing for the Bucks. Now it's on you. We did our thing. Now it's on you to get another one. We know you're the GOAT, but it's on you to get another one. So said, so done. He then goes down there, him and Gronk, they get the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl's won in Tampa. Then they spin it forward. Tom Brady's like, all right, back to you guys. And of course, this too was a challenging season with COVID again. And in what was a truncated schedule, 56 games instead of 82, very limited recovery time in between games. And they went all the way and scaled the mountain again, the Lightning. So now there will be another celebration in the state of Florida. And the Lightning are like, TB12, back over to you. So let's see what you and the Bucks have again. So it's been an amazing time for sports down in the Sunshine State. I should point out that, as you mentioned, I played for the Lightning. I also was drafted by the Panthers. We have a home down in the Miami area, and we spend quite a bit of time in the state of Florida as well. So it's a great time for the state of Florida. I'm sure Governor DeSantis should be smiling and licking his chops because the Sunshine State is shining brightly and living up to its name right now in the world of professional sports and beyond, of course.
Yes, and specifically, Tampa is living up to that name. They're calling it Tampa Bay now. I have to point that out. And we actually even have some footage right here that we're going to show where they're congratulating each other. They're tweeting at each other. Even, we've got Kevin Kiermaier with the Tampa Bay Rays. They're all super supportive of each other. And that, that's so important, right?
It's very important. I mean, listen, it's a mutual admiration society, right? And that's one of the things about sports and entertainment and music and the arts. It's real time. There's nothing like it. It's unscripted. This is unscripted. This is the ultimate reality show in the world. There's no swiping and clicking and pointing and listen, maybe for how you consume, how you watch it or the content, but the way in which athletes and elite entertainers and musicians and stuff do their craft, it's second to none in terms of elite. It is nice to see the players and the athletes and the people from the different sports down there really encouraging each other. People don't recognize Gronk was actually on the ice with some of the Lightning, with Alex Killorn and some of the members of the Lightning right prior to the start of the playoffs. And Gronk grew up actually playing hockey up in Buffalo, where he grew up in Buffalo, New York, just outside of my hometown of Toronto. So it's been an amazing time. It's been an amazing time for sports down there in South Florida, and Florida, I should say, in the state in general.
I know, and we're expecting actually a super funny tweet that I saw, and I want to get your take on this because we saw that moment where Tom Brady tossed the trophy, the Super Bowl trophy to, was it Gronk on another boat?
Yeah, he tossed it to Gronk on another boat.
Yes. Yep. So the Stanley Cup actually specifically tweeted that they think that they're a little too heavy to make that happen, but it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. The cup's 35 pounds. The Stanley Cup's, it's big. It looks like a person, actually, in terms of size. And it's the most iconic trophy, with all due respect. I've got friends in every league and every sport, but it's the most iconic trophy in the world of professional sports. It's the hardest to win. It's the most grueling, the most challenging. It literally challenges you to every fiber of your body. And believe me, I know from our Carolina Hurricanes team that ended up going to the Stanley Cup final in 2002 and losing to that Hall of Fame Detroit Red Wings team, it is so difficult to win. It's near impossible to win. And there's just so much history. You see the names of winners in teams past that are etched in the Stanley Cup itself. Literally talking about it as a former player and being a part of the league now for 25 years between playing and broadcasting, it gives me goosebumps talking to you about it here from our home in Jersey. So it's a very powerful thing.
Well, Mr. Kevin Weeks, analyst for NHL Network and former Tampa Bay Lightning player himself, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. I'm excited for this boat parade, and we're excited to see what's in store for the next season for all sports, really.
My pleasure. No, thank you so much for having me. Thanks to our good friend, Rich Big Daddy Salgado, for the assist. We love and appreciate him, but continue your great work. You're on a great trajectory. Thanks for having me, and appreciate all the NHL and sports fans down there in the Sunshine State. Congrats to the Lightning and Montreal for making the Stanley Cup final, but congrats to the Lightning for winning their third in franchise history and the second in this repeat back-to-back. It's amazing stuff. Appreciate you having me this morning. Thank you.